I'm Kelly Mitchell, the wine siren. I am here with Juliana McBride, vintner extraordinaire of Crosby Roamann. And I'm so excited to sit down with you at last and talk about everything that you guys have been up to, because you've been up to a lot.
We're pretty busy.
Yes, you are.
Well, thanks for having me. It's exciting that you're here and taping us, and we're excited to be broadcast to a whole new market.
Excellent.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to talk a little bit about your story, because you are from the East Coast and went on a journey of sorts to get to Napa. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, actually, I was born and raised in the Midwest, but
Okay.
after college, I moved to New York City, and I worked in book publishing for 10 years, and that is where I met and fell in love with and married Sean, who is a native New Yorker. It's where he grew up and spent his whole life. And we worked, as I said, in different areas, but wine was always a huge passion for Sean. And then I got really into it, and we had this opportunity to make one barrel of wine at City Winery in Tribeca.
Oh, wow.
Which turned out to be a very hands-off experience, and it only made Sean want to learn more. So he said, I am going to make wine in Napa, and he found someone to help him do that, and spent 2 weekends a month and every vacation day possible out here in Napa, and those 3 barrels turned into 6 and turned into 9, until eventually, years later, he said, I want to move to California. And
Wow.
so we did it.
Excellent. Okay, the name Crosby Roamann.
So the name,
Because you're the McBrides, right?
We're the McBrides,
Okay.
and at the time when Sean started Crosby Roamann, I was not involved. So it was his brainchild and his baby. So Crosby Roamann honors 2 women in his family, his grandmother and his great-grandmother, his Norma, Peachy, Crosby, and Sally Roamann.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to talk for a moment just a little bit about your building your tribe, because as we know, you guys are a startup, right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Startup, you're in the Crusher District. Can you tell me how you chose, well, first of all, let's tell everybody what the Crusher District
Sure,
is.
yeah. So the Crusher District is, I guess it's a collective of about 10 to 12 wineries that are down here in this industrial area, but within city limits of Napa. And we all basically have our own little warehouses. And I like to think of our space as a very industrial chic winery, tasting experience. And I would say that most of us are small, but not all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we definitely range in size. Here at Crosby Roamann, we make about 1,000 cases a year. So we're as boutique as it gets.
Wonderful, and there's always something special when you're
Right.
smaller in numbers, right?
Well, absolutely. Everything we do here is handmade. You know, we like to say that our hands touch every bottle from start to finish, from picking the grapes to making sales deliveries. We definitely do it all.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the startup aspect of building a tribe, you know, building your followers. How did you first introduce the first wines?
So the first wines went out exclusively to friends and family. So we were living in New York, and our friends were very, very encouraging, and so we said, we've got 56 cases, you know, this is our friends and family, our inaugural release, and they were incredibly supportive, and we sold through it.
Beautiful.
And then, you know, from there, we moved out here, and we built a distribution network around the country, and that has been really valuable for us in terms of branding, getting into great restaurants in New York and Miami and Houston and New Orleans. And that's sort of how we build. You know, it's primarily friends and family, and then word of mouth, and then it's a funny thing the way that it grows, but we're still working at it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now you provide a unique experience because it's different than your standard, you know, vineyard experience or tasting experience. Tell us a little bit about how your experience is different from somebody else's down the road. Or...
That's a great question. So when you come and visit us, you meet with Sean and I. We're the owners and the operators and the vintners, and that's kind of a unique thing. You know, we don't have staff. It's just the 2 of us. So you come, we greet you at the door with a glass of wine, usually a Sauvignon Blanc, and then we walk and do a tour into the back, and then you get to do a barrel tasting with Sean. which is pretty cool. And then we come back and we do a seated tasting here in the tasting room.
And not everybody gets the opportunity to experience a barrel tasting, so how unique.
It is pretty cool. Generally we can do those depending on the phase, the barrels are at. But it's really fun to taste a 2015 in barrel versus the 2016 or whatever is coming out next in glass, and talk about the evolution and really taste the evolution of the wines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And people ask really great questions when we're back there. What does MT stand for on the barrel? Medium toast, and what does that mean? And what flavors does that impart to the wine? And it's really pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And as the brand grows, can you imagine doing 5,000 cases?
Well, I think that our goal is to stay small, because this is who we are and this is our passion and this is what we're doing. But we want to be smart and we want to be profitable, and I do think that does mean growth eventually.
Beautiful.
But what that means, the number, I'm not sure what that number is. Eventually, maybe one day down the line, we'll get to 5,000 cases. But at the moment, we're pretty small.
It seems like from a business standpoint, some people have the aspirations to grow very big. And when you do that, your margins can decrease and you become less profitable. So
right.
What a wonderful thing to be able to stay a boutique and really create that, one-of-a-kind experience for people, and at the same time deliver incredible handcrafted wines.
Well, that's what we're trying to do,
and
that's definitely the goal. I think in order to be profitable and stay small, you have to increase that direct-to-consumer business, which is why we built the tasting room, and why it was so important for us to be here, to have a space to draw people in and really get to sit down and experience this with Sean and I. And that is where I see the most growth for us versus direct to trade. But I think you kind of lose a little bit of that soul when you grow too big, and you lose the connections with people, and that's what we're about.
We're in industrial chic space.
These are this is redwood from reclaimed redwood from wood barrel staves.
Oh my goodness!
From the Fabiano Winery, actually, in Sonoma. Yeah. Which was really cool. And we thought that we had to have, this wood we had to have made into a table. And I think every piece that we've picked out here has been very thoughtful. Everything that has gone into this tasting room has been very carefully selected and thought out. And Sean and I do not always agree, especially when it comes to aesthetics, but I think we found something here in the tasting room that has really worked. And it's
got
a real
mass appeal.
Marriage of the two. Yeah.
I love it. Well done. What other types of varietals are you folks producing?
So we do a lot in small batches. We produce Sauvignon Blanc, and all of our whites are barrel fermented and aged, which is something different and softer, I think. So we do Sauvignon Blanc, we do Chardonnay, we do Pinot Noir from Carneros, we do Merlot and Cabernet, and then within those we do a little bit of Rosé, which is a bleed from the Pinot and the Merlot generally, and we make 1 to 2 barrels of that per year, so that goes pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
And Sean does a little something special sometimes with some Sauvignon Blanc. Takes a barrel every year. This year, 2015, it's a skin ferment Sauvignon Blanc. So we get a lot of little runs, but about 5 different varietals.
I love it. So if people want something special that not everybody else has and incredible taste, this is where they come.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. And how do people, for the people out there who may not be able to travel to Napa, in the next 3 to 6 months, how can they get a bottle of your fabulous juice?
Well, we are online, and that is crosbyroamann.com, and the Roman is kind of funny. It's spelled ROAMANN.com, and we hope that you will schedule a trip to Napa and come see us. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.